as it's playing, but it. Try that now. All right, I've had enough of this. Sound equipment is stopped. All right, I can silence it from here. Ah. All right, we're playing I'm sorry, guys. All right. Question becomes, are you still hearing the music, or did you finally quit? And the next question is, can you hear? Okay, music's gone. Can you hear me? And my phone will not turn up any higher. Okay. Awesome. Well, technology is such, will not go any higher, Morgan. I can't up any higher. It's at 100%. It don't go beyond that. Can't hear me. I guess you'll just have to read my lips. Go any higher than this. Oh boy. Well, welcome, guys. I'm so glad you're here. For those of you listening on live stream, we're having a very interesting time here. Music player wouldn't quit. It wouldn't start, and then it wouldn't quit. I finally had to just take it back so that I could now have to reinstall it. And I don't know what to tell you about the distortion, Morgan, because it's I've got it's way up because nobody could hear me. Problem is when it gets too loud, then and if I turn it down, then Jesus Christ, all things through Christ, who strengthens me. So it's a matter of being plugged into the right power source. Secret to helping yourself is Romans 6. The word sin appears 17 times in the book of Romans. In chapter 6 of the book of Romans. One of the key words in Romans 7 is the word law. Chapter 6 is about freedom from sin for the Christian, and chapter 7 is about freedom from the law for the believer. Chapter 8, the key word is Holy Spirit. Now, in chapter 6, the first 6 verses talk about death to sin. Chapter 7, the first 6 verses talk about death to the law. Tonight, we're going to look at the first 13 verses of chapter 7. Now, I think this is a very important chapter, and I know a lot of people tend to skim through it. You find yourself, and hopefully, if you look through this major portion, you're going to realize how free you are, what the results of being free from the law are, and the purpose of the law. So the reasons we're freed from the law. What is the law? Well, we talked about this last week, but the Ten Commandments and all of the laws of the Old Testament that God had given. Now, we all know that the Pharisees had 300 more laws on top of regular laws. And then they had this thing called Mishnah, giant book, which you could kill people with. Giant, and I've got a copy of it because the Puritans used to read it to their kids as bedtime stories. Yes, I know it doesn't sound, and it's a commentary on Jewish law, and it helps you identify when certain conditions happens if your cat meows too many times on a Sabbath or something like that. You know, very detailed. The reason they had it was because they had added all this extra stuff, and it's bad enough that they couldn't follow the Ten Commandments, but then they added all these extra laws on top of it, made it so difficult that nobody could possibly keep them all. They were having a hard time just keeping the Ten Commandments, just like we do. So, but it's by grace we live through the Christian life. And we start in chapter 7 talking about being free from the law. Not know, brothers, and Paul's talking to Christians, for I am speaking to men who know the law has an authority over man only as long as he lives. The law has no power over a dead man. If there's a car accident and somebody's killed, wouldn't it be strange for the policeman to write a ticket to the dead guy? I mean, even though it might have been the dead guy's fault, it really doesn't do you any good to arrest the dead guy. Okay? You are on death row and you are elected. He's making is that a marriage contract is only good if both people are alive. If your spouse is dead, you are not in a marriage. I needed to make that real clear. Okay? If you have a dead spouse, You are a widower or a widow, but you are not still married. Your spouse no longer is there. You are not considered a married person. You're a widow or a widower, but your spouse is dead. And if you decide to marry again, that you're no longer under that marriage contract. You're no longer married to that same person. You might change who you're married to. So if spiritually a person dies, they're not under the law. Paul uses an illustration. He says in this passage that if you have two husbands, the law is your first husband, the wife represents the Christian, and when a Christian is married to the law, that's an impossible situation. It's a hard, difficult marriage because when the law is your husband, the law is perfect. How would you like to have a perfect spouse? Never wrong. Always in the wrong. And the law is a perfect husband, and he's very picky and very particular. And if the law were a man, he'd demand absolute perfection of his wife. Dominate his wife and make lists of things for his wife to do and hand it to her every morning. He'd come home from work at night, work exactly at the same time, never late. He'd walk over the list and give his wife and say, well, let's review your day. And he thinks that every one of those things she's failed. She feels like a failure, frustrated. There's the perfect husband demanding perfection. Her life and a bunch of rules and restrictions, and she can't measure up. The point he's making is not about husbands and wives. Law and the Christian are totally incompatible. If you try to live the Christian life by keeping the law, you're going to be frustrated. You'll be in a guilt complex your entire life. The point is that the husband didn't lift a finger to help her. The law doesn't help you become a Christian. It doesn't even help you be a Christian. It's simply the standard. This is where you're supposed to be. Anybody who falls short of that standard is lost. Only one person who ever walked the face of this earth who ever kept the law perfectly, and his name is Christ. So, we go back to our illustrations. The wife thinking